You're listening to Veg Your Best. There has never been a more important time to be vegan. At Veg Your Best, I want to help you. I want to help you limit and eliminate the consumption of animal products without feeling deprived, overwhelmed, or unsupported, even if no one you know is vegan. My name's Michelle Olander. I'm a life coach, and I know that if I could go vegan in my 50s, with all my excuses, I know you can start moving in that direction too. Veg your best, and there's nothing you can't do. Episode 196, Let Failure Be Your Superpower. Welcome back, my Veg Your Bestie. It's June 2024, my birthday month, the birthday month of a lot of my favorite people. And my guess is there will be a new favorite person born this month, just as they saying. And this summer, there is really a lot going on at Team Veg Your Best. We are working on a new website. Yeah, that's going slower than expected, but it's going. And on some new content and some new guests. And I am pitching myself to be on some other podcasts out there in the podcast universe. So please, if you, my Veg Your Bestie, have any suggestions, please don't hesitate to let me know. You know, I'm always super happy to invite people to come on here at Veg Your Best, but I have been a little more shy, I guess, to ask people to invite me on their shows, or for me to write a guest blog article for their website. And this June, I am creating a different rhythm for the summer here at Veg Your Best Central. For 3 months, I will not be taking on any new clients for my usual 8-week coaching packages because there's a lot going on and I want to be very, very flexible as a couple of new family members approach planet Earth. And I want to be supportive to some of those pre-existing family members this summer. So for this summer, I am only going to be booking one-off coaching sessions. You can always go to my online calendar and see if there are any times there that work for you and book a coaching session. And for the time being, all first coaching sessions are free always. And for the time being, we will just try to, if you'd like another coaching session or if you'd like to catch up here and there in my calendar when you can, or through Voxer or through email or texting coaching sessions, that's going to be perfectly possible. And we'll figure out a price, you and me, depending on your situation. So I know that sounds a little bit complicated, but honestly, I just do not want anything to be distracting me from my main goals this summer. So launching a new coaching package or advertising it, I don't want to do that. All I want to do is help people who contact me as much as I possibly can, help them veg their best. So you could just go into my online calendar and book a session. And if you don't find a time that works for you, just give me a contact, DM me, comment on an Instagram post. We'll figure it out. I have plenty of time, but I just don't have dates that I, throughout the whole summer, can promise you have Wednesday at 10 a.m. or you have Thursday at 2 p.m. I just can't do that this summer, but I will have time, and I would love to support you on your vegan or plant-based journey, or what you'd like to do now that you've moved in that direction. So anyway, today we're talking about that thought that almost all of us run into now and then that sounds like, whatever, no point stopping now. And I'm sure you've experienced this thought. Maybe it sounds like, oh, whatever, tonight's already not going in a vegan way, so I'll worry about it tomorrow or next week. Or you're on your trip and you look around and it just seems like all meat, cheese, and eggs, and you think, whatever. I'll get back to plant-based eating when I get home. Or maybe you think, gosh, this is like pulling teeth. No one in the family's on board. I'll be able to make a vegan choice much, much better when I'm away next week by myself. Or maybe you find that you've just unconsciously poured some cow's milk in your coffee, and instead of thinking, okay, well, I'll double down and be very careful, you think, you know what? No point in worrying about it now. I could just have a sausage, egg, and cheese sandwich too. Monday, I'll get back on board. Do any of those sound familiar? Maybe they're not what you're doing right now on your plant-based journey. Maybe you're doing it in some other area, but I think we've all been there with whatever. Today's ruined. This week is already ruined. Forget it. Maybe you're in a group, and instead of asking what vegan options might be possible, you find yourself not asking because, well, no one else is asking for it. And that means probably isn't anything. And what good is it even going to do if there's nothing there? And I'll just get something easy, and next time I'll call ahead or something. Next time. Or the ice cream everyone else was eating looked good, and never mind. I'm just not going to worry about plant-based food this weekend. And I think we've talked about it before. Some people call this falling off the wagon. Falling off the wagon, which I think is a pretty funny old-fashioned term from the temperance movement in the 19th century, end of the 19th, maybe the early 20th century. Falling off the wagon, I think you probably know, usually means you've started drinking again after a period of abstinence. But I hear it all the time. I hear it all the time, folks using the term falling off the wagon to describe not going to yoga anymore, or dropping your gym routine, or eating sugar and desserts after a period of being, listen, can you hear the air quotes? After a period of being good about something. As if there's some place where you could be on a wagon, and then there's another place where you would be off the wagon. So you bite into a protein bar that maybe someone just offers you, or they're on somebody's desk at work, and you think, oh wait, what is in that? And you look at the ingredients, and then you think, oh well, damage done. I might as well just finish it. Or maybe you do it with other things, not just food or vegan choices. Maybe sometimes you find yourself scrolling the internet or binging a video series or online shopping when you told yourself, no, I'm not doing that right now. But since you are, whatever, today's ruined. I'll take it seriously tomorrow. Or you know what? I'll get back to that and be good on Monday. Now, first of all, I'd like to say who hasn't? Who has not done this in one way or another with new choices or habits? Any new choices, any new habits, any new routines, it happens. It just happens. When my kids were in high school, this is a little bit of a diversion. This just jumped in my head. When my kids were in high school, getting ready for college applications, that was, I think, coincidentally, when I went back to get my master's in history of art. Now, I took that program, that master's program, simply for no other reason than I wanted to. Just me. There was no one else that wanted me to. Lord knows no one wanted me to do it. And I still sometimes noticed that as much as I wanted to do that program, I often had trouble getting my work done in the way I wanted to, in the way I thought I would when I was imagining being in graduate school, the way I thought I should when I was there. And boy, did it give me compassion with my adolescent kids and the way they handled their schooling. It gave me so much more compassion when I noticed that, sometimes I had a once-a-week class with a full week to do the reading and the preparation, and sometimes still I had not fully prepared before the class the way I knew I wanted to, or the way I knew I was expected to. I only wish that I had known as much as I do about coaching and had had a coach back then, but that's for another episode. But my point being, I had this idea of what it would be like to be a grad student, to be keeping up with my reading and my writing and my preparation and my research for that degree. And sometimes I still had the thought, when I'd fallen off this metaphorical wagon of what it should be like, I was like, ugh, whatever. You know what? I'll figure it out next week, or I'll recommit after the break, or. I was really like that, even exponentially more like that as an undergraduate, hence my bachelor's degree, which took over 6 years. Because when I was on, I was on. But when I was off, when I wasn't keeping up with the work, when I was not being organized about filling out the forms and registering correctly, or being proactive with the department or the dean or the classes that would be offered on the semester that was necessary, and having taken the prerequisite classes, I had a very hard time getting myself back on the academic wagon in those situations. I had a really hard time when I had fallen away from the behavior I thought I should be doing. I had a hard time asking for help. I had a hard time communicating with my dean or my advisor or my professors, or for that matter, with my parents. So that slide, that avoidant behavior of all or nothing, that had a very strong momentum in my life. But when I did decide, no, I've got to finish this up, and I had those 3 or 4 particularly uncomfortable conversations and just practiced following the program rather than overcomplicating it all, I got through my bachelor's degree. Was it perfect? Was it perfect from that decision onward? Of course not. Of course not. But when it got messy, I just knew how to keep reorienting back to what was necessary to finish up my degree, to learn the skills, to practice the communication, the habits, the time management, the boundaries, to move towards what I wanted. There's no way around it. Change is a big pain most of the time. Change almost always means doing things you haven't been doing by definition, right? And automatically a lot of friction comes with it. When what you want to do means choosing things you haven't chosen much before. When what you want to do involves talking to people you haven't talked to before, or asking for things you don't know that much about. When it means muscles and skills you haven't developed or used much. Change is not one and done, and I would love it if you would remember that anytime you find yourself moving off that metaphorical wagon, that stopping in the moment, even when you've messed up, that's magic. Stopping in that moment that you've really noticed, gosh, I'm off track, that is magic. If you told yourself that you weren't going to eat animals today, and then you give in to an urge, or you acquiesced to someone else, or you didn't ask for help or for another option, stopping as soon as you notice is the magic. That's not a fail. That is successful change. Learning how to pivot back even after you've failed to eat vegan or plant-based, that is the whole point. That's how you get better. This is exactly the way we rewire our brains from the way we've been living and the way we'd like to live. This is how we build new vegan and plant-based muscles. This is how we build any other new goal or habit, by stopping when you notice. If you promised yourself that you'd only have plant-based meals today, and then you take a bite of a non-vegan dish, stopping now, that is success. That is not failure. If you have reasons to be someone who follows a vegan lifestyle and you're relying on yourself to just be perfect at it, that's not a success strategy. That's like me thinking as an adolescent that because I like to read and write and learn languages, that I was going to just waltz through college. I had to learn what to do when it was hard. I had to learn what to do when I was over my head or had completely messed up my time management or my planning. The skill I needed wasn't just learning Russian or filling the requirements of any other class. It was showing up. It was asking for help. It was pivoting and being responsible, even when I'd messed up or taken a class I hated or couldn't figure out how to do the work. I had to learn to stop the slide that was taking me off track, and that was success when I learned how to do that. You have to know how to stop that slide away from whatever it is that you want. You know, a vegan practice is just one in which you practice making choices that do not use or exploit animals to the best of your ability. And every time you notice that you're making one of those normal default choices in this society that includes animals, and then you pivot or you reorient yourself or you stop, you teach your brain two amazingly important things. One, you teach yourself, oh, I know how to get back on track. And two, change is not about being perfect. This is exactly why I call any change a practice, whether it's a vegan practice, a plant-based practice, a writing practice, a healthy practice, a fitness practice. If you think the changes you want and the habits you desire come from being perfect, honestly, you're going to be struggling. It's going to be so much harder. Because if you make the idea of a fail or a mistake or a problem mean that you're off the wagon and gosh, you might as well just give up at least until tomorrow or next week or next semester or next year, the only thing you're succeeding in that situation is at reinforcing your habit of consuming animals and reinforcing that one way of living is easy or possible for you and that the vegan or plant-based way is just going to be too hard or maybe it's too late for you, or you don't have it in you. All or nothing keeps you stuck. But every single time you catch yourself and say, oops, that's not what I wanted, and figure out how to choose something that is what you want, every time you catch yourself and ask for help getting what you want, every time you notice, ooh, that's an animal product, and there are reasons that I don't want to consume animals, whatever those reasons are. Are they compassion for animals, ethical concerns about the environment, or the business practices of industrial animal agriculture? Are they health concerns? But every single time you shift your focus from what you did to what you want to do, you're making that new practice easier. You are making your vegan and plant-based muscles stronger. Every single time. Every single time you catch yourself and get back to making those choices that you do want, it gets easier. And that's the reason, that's the extra reason, the unanticipated benefit of creating a vegan practice. You learn the skills to follow your own path in life. When you start to learn how to make vegan and plant-based choices, you see how many other parts of your life where you are just drifting, where you are just doing the, least problematic course. You start seeing how creating a practice of a few new choices can completely transform your life. Moving in a vegan direction is transforming, I think, because multiple times a day you get a chance to behave in a way that matters to you. And too often we tend to come up with some big story that when we're having a hard time with something, that it's because, okay, pick yours, because we're weak or undisciplined or lack support or live in a place which makes it impossible, or maybe we're too old to change, or what difference will it make since I've been eating animals for 40 or 50 or 70 years? Pick your story. But what if, instead of making that whole story of why it can't be perfect, we keep reorienting ourselves to what we can do, the choices we can make, the commitment and compassion we can show. Colleen Patrick Goudreau always says, don't do nothing just because you can't do everything. And that is true everywhere. It's true everywhere, not just on your vegan journey. Doing what you can do builds so many muscles. It builds so much self-trust. It builds so many skills, all of which you're going to need to build a more consistent and a more someday effortless vegan or plant-based practice. When we can focus on the decision that wasn't plant-based or the choice that didn't get us what we want, we can drop that whole story about our ADHD or our family or our work schedule or our age, and we can just see, what can that problem show me? What can that failure teach me? What could that misstep illustrate? That is the Veg Your Best method. You wanted to make vegan choice A, but you ended up making non-vegan choice B. And your first thought is, too hard. I'm not very disciplined, I don't do well with restriction. I never finish what I start. Why do I always fail at this? Those are some of mine, but none of it is at all helpful. It's not even really true, is it? Whether you have a fail on your vegan journey or on any other quest or goal or challenge, the Veg Your Best method is no negative story, no self-condemnation, no blame, not of you, not of anyone else, just curiosity. Just curiosity, as if it were happening to someone else that you love and respect. Curiosity. You'll start to wonder, I don't know, why? Why am I saying one thing and doing another? Why do I want to live in a vegan way, but I find myself still choosing animal products? And of course, some of those old stories will bubble up. Answers like, yeah, well, that's how I am. I'm just that way. I don't have the time. I don't have the bandwidth. I don't have the support or motivation, or fill in your blank. Because there's something about having that ready answer, the one that we've been carrying a long time, the ready answer of what's wrong with you or your situation that lets you think, yeah, no, can't do it. But if you're willing to sit with that curiosity and some of that discomfort that comes up of knowing your action did not agree with your intentions, your action maybe didn't agree with your best interest or your commitments, if you're willing to just let it be true, yeah, I said I wasn't going to eat any animal products this week, and yep, I already ate chicken. It's just a fact. And if you're willing to just let that fact be true, yeah, I decided I was going to look for cruelty-free shampoo, and instead I just bought what I always get from the company that tests on animals. If you're willing to just let that fact be true, I had a plan. I didn't work that plan. If you're willing to let it just be a fact, you can start to see where it went off the rails, where it got hard, where, in some cases, knowing and seeing where that fail begins and where a pivot might have been possible. Sometimes it's obvious, sometimes it slowly becomes clear. Maybe you didn't speak up for yourself. Maybe you didn't ask if there was another choice. Maybe you were Maybe you were hungry or hangry or rushed or distracted. Maybe you were in a place or a situation that you had never, ever been in before and honestly did not know what to expect or how to communicate. Maybe you were feeling irritated or hurt or unsupported or left out. These are the same things that get in the way of any new project, any new goal. Totally normal human things. Sometimes we think, oh, it's the new project that's the problem. It's going vegan or plant-based. That's the problem. But it's not. Almost any new behavior or way of life will bring up all these same issues. So when you understand what goes wrong, where the slip between the thought and the lip, as one of my clients says, when you see and understand where that disconnect happens, you can sometimes anticipate, and you can sometimes prepare, and you can sometimes avoid it at the last minute, even when it starts or happens, and you can usually recover much more quickly. To meet yourself where you are on a new journey, on a new quest, to meet yourself where you are when you're learning something new that's outside your comfort zone and you're doing it for a reason that's important to you. Meeting yourself, having that experience is so useful in every single other area of your life. If you start thinking, whatever, no point in stopping now, I'm no good at this, today's ruined, the week's ruined, the month's ruined, that just reinforces the story you have that it's too hard for you, that it won't matter, and that it's too late. But that's not really true, is it? The next time when you notice yourself saying, oh gosh, whatever, there's no point stopping now, you can remind yourself that stopping now is the secret. It's magic. Every time you show yourself that you can stop doing the thing you don't want and start doing the thing you do want. Every time you can pivot, you get to create these muscles, these change muscles that you'll be able to use on this or any other goal. It's not a problem when you fail. Okay, kids. Next week, maybe in 2 weeks, we'll be talking a little more about change, because I think when we realize that change has a certain structure that is true with all change, we stop thinking, oh, this particular change of going vegan or plant-based, this is the problem. It's not. It's just change. And change is, change has a shape. It has a direction, and I want to talk more about that with everybody. So we'll be talking much more about that. But just notice this week when you're making it mean something's wrong or weak or flaky about you personally, if you're encountering a fail or a misstep on your vegan journey, or on your college degree, your podcast, or your new business for that matter. Notice when you start making it mean, oh gosh, the day's ruined, or the challenge that you took on is over, or you can't save the season now, might as well just move on, because it's not true. It's not true. Those fails, those missteps, they can teach you so much, okay? I'm going to stop repeating it. But yes, I think having a coach is super valuable for this process. So if you want to book yourself into my calendar or try a free coaching call to start, restart, or re-energize your vegan or plant-based practice, this summer is a great time. Okay, get out there, my Veg Your Bestie, and don't worry about failing. Fail forward. Fail with curiosity. Fail with compassion and respect for yourself. Fail with an eye towards learning something really valuable. And let me help you. And don't let me forget this. And if you're feeling generous for my birthday this month, I would really love 20 new reviews on Apple Podcasts. If you haven't written a review, or if you have gotten something out of this podcast, even if you're just thinking, "Aw, that's sweet. A 65-year-old vegan lady makes this podcast every week and all she wants is a review." I'm not against begging, since it really does help. It really does help other people find the podcast, and I hope it helps you. Veg your best. Veg Your Best podcast production, music, and editing by Charlie Weinshank. Thanks, Charlie. Before you go, it would mean so much to me and the Veg Your Best team if you would hit subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, or share with someone you think might be interested. Something about algorithms, it helps bump us up a little in the rankings, and that's the best way to help others find the podcast and for us to find our audience. So, until next week, make it easy and veg your best.